He's like somebody who's quiet quit a long time ago.
Hey, I remember that line. That's our line, Byron. It looks like John Steenhuisen watches our show because we have said long ago Cyril has quietly quit being a president, and it looks like John Steenhuisen agrees with us. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it was nice to actually watch John yesterday during the parliamentary debate, which is basically the president stood there for an hour and a half and droned on about some drivel. But John came out in all of it and actually did the one thing that we've been suggesting that John should do for some time. He called the president con man. What do you think about that?
Well, I think he is completely right in that regard. It's worth watching the whole speech. And the essence of the speech is that Cyril Ramaphosa is possibly the greatest con man South Africa has ever seen, in the worst way possible, because what he has promised and what he was voted and elected on, the exact opposite has happened. And John made several inferences in the speech about he's promised to solve unemployment, he promised to solve crime, he promised to solve load shedding, he promised to solve X, Y, Z. And on every single metric, all of those things are far worse under Cyril himself.
The difficulty that he experienced and the nation experienced with Cyril Ramaphosa is that he came in there with a degree of optimism. Everybody thought everything would get better. I mean, Ramaphosa was here, right? And we all know Ramaphosa was going to fix the nation. So John drew reference to that. He said, but as far as he was concerned, looking this many years on, the president was nothing more than, in using John's words, just another cadre in parliament. He was just another con man who was there to steal the nation. He lied to the nation. The nation has got poorer and worse whilst being under Cyril Ramaphosa than it was under Jacob Zuma, which actually is a comment that we've made numerous times. The nation is fundamentally worse under Cyril Ramaphosa than it was under Zuma. That's a fact. You cannot deny that. Grey listing of the various economic downgrades, of the crime statistics, of the failing hospitals, of babies born in boxes. All of it shows, ultimately, that Cyril Ramaphosa has failed. But according to John, he didn't just fail. He conned the nation into believing that something better could be achieved.
Cyril's entire public profile is one of a con man. He only succeeded as a head of the union because basically the mining industry picked him to prevent wildcat strikes. He only succeeded in CODESA because Rolf Meyer actually believed that it was time for change and the ANC should come in, and when the ANC didn't get their way during the course of the negotiations, they just went out and killed IFP members until the NP forced them back to the table, begged them, pleaded with them. And the NP were absolutely horrific negotiators, like the lowest tier negotiators you can think of. When Cyril went into business, he didn't create any value. Whites just gave him shares for doing nothing. And now that he's president, we can actually see who he really is. A con man of the highest order.
Just another ANC cadre. Because under Cyril Ramaphosa, all of the most radical and extremist policies that even Jacob Zuma wouldn't touch have been proposed. All of the people that Jacob Zuma fired for being useless, such as Becky Cele, still being in parliament. So it's funny to see that Jacob Zuma was deemed to be the worst thing to ever happen to South Africa, and yet all the worst excesses of government that Zuma wouldn't even touch are in Cyril's cabinet. And all of the metrics, all of the things that even Jacob Zuma wouldn't touch, Cyril has done. Various things have happened under Cyril's reign. Every civil society out there told him that the Black economic empowerment, the affirmative action regime that they've just changed was a terrible idea. Cyril didn't care, he did it anyway. Everybody told him expropriation without compensation was a terrible idea. He didn't care, he did it anyway. We've just seen the NHR bill go back to Parliament. The initial regulations of the bill have even been deemed unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court. Cyril just doesn't care. There's the old saying, why ascribe to malice what you can ascribe to just simple incompetence? But as far as it comes to Cyril Ramaphosa, I am no longer able to use those sayings. I can no longer say this is incompetent. I have to agree, this is malice.
I think it was Elon Musk on Twitter who said, after a long period of time, incompetence actually means sabotage. And I think that's what Cyril actually is. He's not a con man, he's a saboteur. He is someone who breaks things. Someone who intentionally wishes to break the fabric and social order of South Africa through expropriation, through the NHI, through load shedding and things like that. Not because he has a greater plan, but just because he can. He is the person who has broken South Africa.
It's called treason, my friend. Cyril has committed treason against his nation. What he has done is decline the nation by every measurable metric since his reign. And you know what? It was really nice and refreshing for once to see the John Steenhuisen that we know stand up in Parliament and basically call the president to his face what our undercover reporter Nelson would call him.
Boost.